How could you do it? For pity's sake, open your eyes. I'm not a Russian revolutionary, obviously. Oh, forgive me. And as for you, what kind of a deduction was that? You were just saying the first thing that came into your head. Ah, but was I not right? Whilst venturing towards foreign climes, you did find yourself in the most troubling predicament, do you not? Well, yes, maybe. Ah, there you have it, you see. What do you make of that, Well, to be honest, this ship is en route to England, and I'm in handcuffs at the scene of a murder. So I'm not really sure you could call it deduction. It's more plain observation. Indeed, and observation, my dear boy, is the basis of all deduction. My method is founded upon the observation of trifles, you see. I announce my findings with a brassy certitude. And more often than not, I'm right. Ha! I don't think you've introduced yourself. Ah, my apologies. How remiss of me. I'm no one other than the greatest detective of the century, known to men and women to the world over. The inimitable Herlock Sholmes. So, it's really you, the actual Herlock Sholmes. The very same. Inimitable actual Herlock Sholmes. You know this man, Susato-san? The most famous detective in the world? Naruto-san? Of course I do. There's nobody who hasn't heard of him. What planet have I been living on, then? We must ask him what he's deduced. He will have worked out the entire case already, I'm sure. Really? Why do you feel uneasy about this? So, you're a great detective, are you? Sorry, what was your name again? Indeed, I am none other than the one and only Herlock Sholmes. Oh, I see. You're German. Herlock, was it? No. I have no hair. I mean, I have hair. Please call me Sholmes. You can read all about my exploits in this exciting London publication. The Ranst. Oh yes, the Ranst, the magazine, full of wonderful short stories and interesting articles from Great Britain. I never miss an issue. I have it sent from England especially. Ah yes, here it is. The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes. So, you're the protagonist in the series of short stories then? Indeed I am. And you've read so many of your own stories you've started to think you really are a detective. Make no mistake, I'm not the poor, deluded fellow you take me for. Your inference is backwards. Backward? My trusty biographer records my greatest detecting achievement and chronicles them in the magazine. You have a biographer, do you? Doesn't everyone? Mine goes by the name of Dr. Wilson, presently keeping shop in London. Dr. Wilson. I must say, thanks to that publication, I've been fantastically busy of late. Why, this very moment, I'm returning from Asia, having solved the mystery of the cursed royal crown. Really? I can't work out whether I should take this man seriously or not. Deduction, you see, is to me a science. Logical reasoning in its purest form. A science? Really? The astute observer notices even the most subtle of reactions in his subject. A furtive glance, a twitch of muscles, a slight inclination of the posture, fingernails, arm sleeves, photos in the skin, all these things are data. Right. And a trained logician makes deductions from this data in the blink of an eye. The ultimate conclusion is, without fail, the truth. As I demonstrated only a few short moments ago. How can you look at me in the eyes and claim that? So you see, I have a turn both for observation and for deduction and fame. That is what makes me the one and only Herlock Sholmes. Have you managed to deduce anything about this particular case yet? Have I managed to deduce anything, my dear fellow? Who do you suppose discovered the culprit in his most cunning hiding place? That's right. It was none other than the great detective before you now, Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Ah, I see. In other words, I'm in these because of him. When I became anxious about Kazuma-sama this morning, I summoned all of the crew members to force the cabin door open. And I concealed myself among their number, gaining entry to the scene of the crime. Yes, luckily for everyone, the great detective, Herlock Sholmes, was on board. And the handcuffs seem to be an excellent fit, Mr. Naruhodo. Ah. The very moment I laid eyes on the scene, 2 facts were immediately apparent to me. Oh really, 2 facts, you say? Mr. Sholmes, tell us, please, what 2 facts were apparent to you when you came into this cabin this morning? Ah, yes. But first, let us be precise. The 2 facts in question were immediately apparent to me. Yes, I understand. But what were they? Allow me to elucidate. The 2 facts that I had reduced from mere momentary glance at the scene of the crime were as follows. Number 1, the cabin was locked from within, rendering escape of the culprit out of the question. Number 2, the victim was Russian and killed following a dispute with an acquaintance. Hold on, Mr. Sholmes, what made you think the victim was Russian? Observe the dying message left by the victim on the floor. Garderobe. That is the Russian word for wardrobe. You really think Kazuma-sama could have left a dying message in Russian? In their final moments, many find their native tongue filling their head. For this young man, Russian. Kazuma was Russian, was he? Initially, I considered Garderobe may be the name of the killer, a certain Robert Gard, perhaps. But in the interest of fairness, I decided it would be wrong not to look inside the wardrobe there at least. Where you found Mr. Naruhodo sleeping soundly. Quite so. I found you, the renowned Russian revolutionary killer. Why is it that I'm Russian too? I observed that you were wearing the same attire as the victim. In other words, you were acquainted. And if my memory serves, that outfit is traditional dress of the Russian people. Oh, school uniforms are traditional dress of the Russian people? I had no idea. And I had no idea a detective could get something so wrong. I took a photograph of the victim and the message, that I might analyze it for possible hidden details. This was taken immediately after the young man was discovered, before the body was removed. Yes, Kazuma had already been taken away when I woke up. This is the first time I've actually seen him like this. Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, yes, thank you. The photograph of the crime scene has been entered into the court. The Russian word for wardrobe in purple ink. It would appear to have been written in the victim's final moments. Can I ask you something, Mr. Sholmes? What, pray? You mentioned Russia before as well, didn't you? You know, when you said I was a fearsome revolutionary fleeing from Russia and all that... Ah yes, the train of reasoning that led me to the truth. Would you mind explaining that train of reasoning to me, do you think? Konechno, certainly, if it interests you. How many times? I'm not Russian and I don't speak Russian. Can we talk about your deduction before the things you concluded about me, I mean? Ah, the now famously accurate, troubling predicament you found yourself in. Actually, it was the other details that I was more hoping to discuss. You know, the merciless Russian revolutionary and assassin of 16 part. Ah yes, the more sordid details. It was a fairly commonplace deduction. Here we have this morning's paper. The main headline reads, Revolutionary villain Bolshevik flees Russia via Shanghai. This vessel made a port at Shanghai yesterday, and last night the young Russian was murdered. Since when was Kazuma Russian? It sounds like Mr. Sholmes has concluded he was Russian because of what Kazuma-sama wrote on the floor. It was a simple act of reasoning to realize that the culprit of this crime was the same merciless revolutionary. One who would kill the very man who helped him to escape after his true identity was discovered. Yes, you, villain Bolshevik. No, how could it be me? I don't look anything like this man, just look at his face! Well, you are a fearsome revolutionary after all. Therefore, you have no doubt learned to revolutionize your appearance as well. Please. And I might add, your name does not appear to be on the ship's passenger list, need I say more? Well, that's because I'm a stowaway. What about the other details? The 16 victims of assassination and blowing up of this crystal tower? Ah yes, the journal clearly interviewed the man and printed all those particulars in the article. The deeds the man has perpetrated thus far and those he is plotting. Yes, everything about this revolutionary Bolshevik was included. There can be no mistake. Do revolutionaries usually agree to interviews with newspaper reporters? I wonder. And what about the part where you said I was just returning from Afghanistan? Also quite clear, stated here in the article. Bolshevik has recently returned after a period of subversive activities in a war-torn region of Afghanistan. Where even is it anyway? This Afghanistan place. Here, take the paper for yourself, as a little memento of this great deduction. Oh, thank you. I absorbed all that is of interest to me with its pages, but I see no rubbish bin nearby. The article about the revolutionary has been entered into the court record. An article on the front page of a Russian newspaper, the headline reads, Revolutionary villain Bolshevik flees Russia via Shanghai. And you may find the article on the back page of interest as well. On the back, cast your eyes over it sometime if the interest takes you, though you may need someone to interpret. It's all written in Russian, I couldn't hope to read it. But I suppose it wouldn't hurt just to glance at the article. Maybe there might be a picture or two. This is interesting. Have you found something relevant, Naruhodo-san? Well, no, I mean, looks like it might be interesting. I can't read a single word, I'm afraid. No, nor can I. But look at this picture. Perhaps it's about a beautiful young Russian princess, do you think? She is very pretty, isn't she? I suppose you enjoy articles like this, do you? I don't know. I can't make any sense of it. Ah, I'm glad you noticed this article. Ah! Allow me to give you a short summary of its contents. Oh, thank you. He pops up everywhere, this Mr. Sholmes. It's about the disappearance of a young lady last night. Renowned prima ballerina of the Novavich Ballet disappeared from Shanghai. During a performance in Shanghai, the famous dancer was reported missing. She is, of course, the talented young Nikolina Pavlova. Why are Russian names so hard to remember? It would appear that the woman was in costume when she was found to be missing from her dressing room. If she was found to be how would people know she was in costume if she was missing? Wearing the diamond tiara, you see pictures, which is worth 20,000 rubles. Oh, how much is 20,000 rubles? I mean, it would be 2 cents right now, wouldn't it? I have no idea, but I'm quite sure it must be an unbelievable sum of money. Let's just think about that for a few moments. Susato-san's eyes are shining like diamonds themselves. The tiara is property of the Novovich Ballet. It would seem the director is beside himself with worry. Yes, I'm not surprised. The company is most anxious to recover both Miss Pavlova and the valuable tiara. They've requested international assistance at all ports with sailing to Great Britain. Could this be another case of a Russian fleeing his or her country? It does seem to be it does seem to be the Russian thing to do. It does seem to be the Russian thing to do. I'm not even going to dignify that with a response, Mr. Naruhodo. The article about the ballerina has been entered into the court record. An article on the back of the Russian newspaper, the headline reads, "Renowned prima ballerina Novovich Ballet disappeared from Shanghai." I'm afraid I can't read a word of Russian. No, me neither. I have no idea what any of this says. The pair of you floundering is a sorry sight. Allow me to offer some assistance. The article on the front page of this newspaper is concerned with a fearsome Russian revolutionary. It reads, "Revolutionary vile Bolshevik flees Russia via Shanghai." Yes, you told us that before. It reveals also that those who see the man's beard with their own eyes never live to tell the tale. Oh my goodness, he is fearsome. Well, presumably the newspaper photographer was alright, wasn't he? The solution is obvious, of course. If he despises his beard to that degree, he need only shave it off. I'm not quite sure that's the problem, Mr. Sholmes. Before we started talking, you were examining Kazuma's desk, weren't you? Kazuma? Ah yes, the victim. Did you notice anything useful, anything at all? Observe for a moment the desktop of the victim. We see that the victim was engaged in penning some text. London diary. Kazuma was keeping notes for the trip. Ah, but I don't think you should read his private writings. It could upset people. Tragic. And something you ought to perhaps elucidate before the act of reading. You mean you've read it already? It's my business to know what other people do not. Yes, I believe it or not, I know a spattering of Japanese. Oh, I see. Well, you're about to know what the Susato takedown is. You're about to know what the Susato takedown is! Susato-san, aren't you going to throw the detective with one of your trademark takedowns? I'm sorry, Naruhodo-san. What on earth do you mean? Life is so unfair! Anyway, to return to the matter at hand, namely this diary belonging to the victim. It would appear to be the final sentence is incomplete, as if the author was cut short. Tell me, what is the nature of the writing? Pray be precise as to the details. Oh, but I thought you knew Japanese. A smattering, dear boy, a smattering. Sayonara, bonsai, Mikado. Nado. I trust you are suitably impressed. But this diary is littered with complicated-looking characters, of which I can read precisely none. So what was all that showing off about before, then? If you would be so kind as to show me, I would be happy to read it to you, Mr. Sholmes. I'm much obliged, my dear madam. The final entry here in Kazuma's diary consists of just 2 short sentences. The first reads, 1:23 a.m. I can hear a faint whistling sound. That was also part of the Sherlock Holmes snake story. A whistling sound? These are very deep waters. Pray go on. The second sentence reads, 1:45 a.m. What looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. A speckled band? What on earth does that mean? I have no idea. I've never heard that expression before. The ventilator grill, you say? The man was presumably referring to the lattice there on the wall, which connects to the adjoining cabin. Yes, the adjoining cabin. Kazuma's diary has been entered into court record. A diary Kazuma was keeping on his trip to London. According to the latest entry he made before his death, he spied what happened to be what appeared to be a speckled band. So, I believe I've given you enough to consider, for the time being at least. Ah, you have somewhere to go. As it happens, the victim's writings in his diary have piqued my interest. The matter warrants some investigation, I believe. And if I am still too long, the seasickness takes hold. Oh, I suppose you're thinking of investigating the cabin next door, which the ventilator connects to. Great detectives are a curious breed. Our minds rebel at stagnation. We crave mental exaltation. So yes, indeed, to investigate. Hence the truth will become clear soon enough. Do you think perhaps that we could go with you? No, that would be somewhat complicated. What? But why? A simple glance at your wrist should reveal the answer. Oh, these. After all, you're the prime suspect in this matter. No? There's no point in trying to turn it into a question. You're the one who decided I was the culprit in the first place. Whatever do you mean? I have no recollection of leaving you as the culprit at any point. You must be joking! You just said it a moment ago! Dear me, you are clearly misguided. I would have no cause to say such a thing. Well, actually, Mr. Sholmes, I did hear you say that, too. You're quite sure? Well, that's very strange. I wouldn't have said you had the face of a criminal, you know? Not really. But what, were you looking at my knees before? Some great detective you are. Well, anyway, that was then and this is now. What do you mean? What I mean, sir, is this. If you are the culprit, then you must play the part more convincingly. Roll over and accept your fate. Now he's just being plain rude. And off he goes, having just laughed in my face. His sense of humor as twisted as his name. Naruhodo-san, what are you just standing there for? You must go and investigate the cabin next door as well. Aren't you forgetting something? What about these? There's no way I can... Hey-ya! After Kazuma spent his dying moments struggling to leave us a clue, you're willing to give up? You're just going to roll over and accept your fate? As if you gave me any choice in the rolling over part.